What's going on, guys and girls? It's Ghost Robo, and today we're checking out Skyforge, the PS4 MMO that dropped earlier this year, but now they're back with a bunch of new content and they wanted to show it to me. So we are going to be taking a look at a new class, but first, this game is all about crazy combat, crazy attacks, and stepping aboard the crazy merry-go-round of classes. To me, that's the coolest part, is the fact that you have all these classes that are very diverse, and you can switch between them at free will at any moment. And it's no slouch visually either. I like the diversity in the environments. There's over 100 locations. You got some pretty nice lighting effects, and honestly a good slew of different locations to take it to these monsters. So if you want to check out the game, if it looks interesting, you want to see the new Revenant class that we will show off in a minute here, there's a link in the description. Click it and you can grab the game. It is completely free and it is pretty darn polished, I have to say. So we are currently tearing into this giant rat-like monster creature, and I think it's cool that you've got some very up-close and personal melee type men and women like this dude here, just using typical sword slashes, but then you'll also see the Cryomancer class that's flinging ice projectiles, launching freaking ice crystals into the sky, dropping them down on the freaking monsters, and eventually, if you progress your character far enough, you will unlock their divine form. You will basically help them and have them reach god status, where they grow to 2 times the size and maybe even get a really cool beard. So it's a pretty good proposition and a pretty good plan to path towards. And while I am no divine god yet, some of these attacks were freaking impressive regardless. There we go. It's happening. Now it's happening, and you can witness and unleash this insane awesomeness as we basically black hole every single bad dude on the screen. So this is the Revenant, and the Revenants are a pretty cool new group of warriors. They were actually found by the Immortals kind of accidentally. They were looking for some help and came upon this ancient settlement of a barbarian tribe that nobody had heard of, and the Revenant wields this giant axe, and that is where all of his power comes from. So you've got a very traditional axe swing that increases its damage as you progress through the combo, and then you've got this beautiful AoE attack, which is my personal favorite. It's called Decimate, and that is exactly what it does to everyone in range. He also has a big smash attack that charges up and then eventually unleashes a big overhead swing, but you want to make sure that you charge that all the way up to get the full effect, so it's a little bit of delayed gratification there. But I really like the way that he combos together, and I really like the way that he is able to fight. Now, this is pretty early in the game, but playing it on a more difficult level, so these guys are pretty tough, and we are going to try and use all of our different movesets to make them pay. And the combat feels pretty good. Like, typically I'm not an MMO person because it feels very detached. Like, you'll play these titles where all of a sudden it just feels like you're literally pressing buttons and then watching it happen. I feel like this is pretty darn close to an action title, and that's obviously what Skyforge was going for, and they've done a pretty good job of achieving it. You'll notice these little prompts that come up. Those are for different finishers and sort of special attacks, and then you can throw the enemy up in the air and sort of finish them off, lock them in place with a brutal blow. Currently looking to crush all of these little hidey holes that these dudes are coming out of, but it's a good chance just to see what he's got to offer, and I really love being able to switch. So I started the game off as the Cryomancer, and that was cool, and I was, okay, like a range class seems pretty good, and then going to Revenant, which was back to more of a melee class, and very like direct combat, and very much of a heavier style, felt really, really cool. And there is a dash button, so one thing I wish the game had was a dodge roll or something like that to give it a little bit more of the, the Dark Souls-y or the action-y feel, but you are able to dash out the way of attacks, and some classes have more defensive abilities that you'll get to see later in the video, because I actually wanted to check out one more class, so we'll do that. But first, this guy needs to use his finishers and get rid of these burrows before beating the boss. There is a boss in this area that we're going to get to pretty quickly there. The good old Revenant also has a Dark Rush move where he sends a self-illusion 40 meters forward, and then you're able to zoom to that spot and deal damage to everybody. And then he has a Siphon ability where he can draw health from an enemy for a couple of seconds and then inflict damage pull them towards you and knock them down. So I think he has a cool moveset. He almost reminds me of the dude from Darksiders 1. I guess that would have been War. Kind of just like that beefy guy with this big, I know he has a sword, but like a big axe. I don't know, his moveset and just the way he moves reminds me a lot of that. These guys have this mode where they get crazy. They go wolvie on us and try to take us down with these insane slashes, and they do a ton of damage given the fact that this is like an early mission on a higher level. Health orb there helps us out, and I think we are going to make our way towards the big bad. Oh no, there's one more little area that we got to deal with, so we'll deal with that, and then we will move on, and you can see a big fight and how that sort of transpires. Now obviously it's not the same level of intensity or the same level of gameplay as like a Bloodborne or a Dark Souls boss battle, but that's not what, you know, really anyone should be coming to this game for. So given that, it does a pretty good job of approximating what that kind of fight should feel like in the context of an MMO. And given the fact that this is free to play on PS4, like, that's pretty cool. I like the fact that this generation, they've really embraced a lot of options for people to enjoy things either at low entry points or free to play. Now obviously the game does have microtransactions and things of that sort, and you know, they are encouraging you to, hey, buy this pack, buy that pack, but technically it is possible to unlock the Revenant without anything, without any spending, so that's good. I picked up the pack. It was like a $15 quick play pack, and I was able to unlock him right away. But there are a whole bunch of classes, so even if you're not about the Revenant, there's a bunch of classes that you can play for free and never have to put a penny in if you don't want to. So this guy is all about attacking while he's in his default state, and then when he goes to that aggro Claw, Wolverine, Fiasco, we kind of just back up, dash out the way, and wait. It allows all of our attacks to kind of charge back up, and it wears him out. You can see there's a little timer. Once that timer is up, we're going to come back in and attack and deal as much damage as we can. This guy has a bunch of health bars, which I thought was a pretty cool look. Feels satisfying as you rip through the orange and the yellow and the red and eventually take this guy down to a point of being nearly dead. And we are getting there, so we'll have to keep working our way through. If you played Skyforge, let me know what you think of the Revenant. If you haven't played Skyforge, let me know what you think of the game in the comments down below. The next class that we're going to check out is the Lightbinder, which I thought was just cool. Like the fact that they use almost like explosive fireworks / light beams to fight. It's a really pretty visual party, so you'll get to be a part of that in a moment. First, we have to finish this dude off who is relentlessly coming at us and trying to crush us with those what look to be like claws covered in poison or some sort of aggressive gel. Not a fan of aggressive gel. I'm more of a passive gel type person. The other kind you put in your hair, not the kind that tries to rip the sinew from your system. We do have to wait, and you know, I played a lot of Destiny 2 lately, so even though normally I hate these timers, and I'm like, I don't want to wait. Like, if I want to punch, I want to punch. That's how real life works. Destiny 2 has kind of trained me that sometimes timers are okay. I don't know that I'm going to completely convert over to that style of gameplay ever, but I think it's given me some sort of like, okay, I feel alright about it. So there's also a pretty extensive character creator, and I just wanted to run you through it real quick. It looks pretty good. Like, I gotta say, obviously it's a PS4 game, and it should look good, and I think they do a pretty good job of giving you some good options and making the characters look pretty cool. So just running you through what I did when I started this off. Threw a mask on this guy, took the mask off the guy, threw the mask back on the guy, gave him some weird hair, gave him a tattoo, made sure that he was a little bit slow, a little bit fast, made him an aggressive stance, and then we're back in. This is the Lightbinder now, and you'll see that the attacks and like the whole look is just very different. Much faster combat, obviously. You're able to reel off a lot of attacks, and this defensive shield reminds me a lot of Master Chief's defensive shield, also reminds me of the Epcot ball. But this one is very protective until it does fall. The Epcot ball hopefully will never fall, but this guy's shield does fall after, you know, a couple of hits. But the fact that he can just whip off these different firework light beam attacks, pretty cool. So you got a lot of different combat styles, and you can legitimately change on the fly. Like, I could get away out of combat, switch over to Paladin, switch over to, you know, back to Revenant, over to Cryomancer, over to Knight. There's a whole lot of other classes as well that you'll eventually unlock throughout the game. So really interesting and pretty nifty that you can kind of pick your style and pick your combat and pick your experience, you know, as you go, without any sort of annoying, like, hey, you got to go, I don't know, restart, you got to go back to a hub. I like the fact that it's just on the fly and combat is the focus. And so you can almost think of the classes as weapons, right? Like, weapon sets kind of reminds me of that sort of ideology of, like, hey, rather than this being a straight up class that you're going to stick with for the next 40 hours, you know, you got loadouts basically, and the Cryomancer loadout, the Lightbinder loadout, the Revenant loadout, the Paladin loadout, pretty cool. This is now like my third or fourth time going through this area, so these guys are even tougher, but it's a good chance to really see what these classes can do and what their abilities are capable of. So let me know which one's your favorite. Do you like that new Revenant? Do you like the Cryomancer with his icy abilities, or do you like this Lightbinder guy who's trying to make fireworks every 5 feet that he walks? So that is going to do it. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of Skyforge. If you already played it, what do you think of the new Revenant class? Big thanks to Skyforge for making this possible and setting me up so that I could share this all with you. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to click the link in the description if you want to check out the game for yourself. And until next time, my friends, there's a lot of awesome stuff releasing. We're kind of in between right now, but we are only a couple weeks away from the biggest day of the gaming year, and you know what that is, October 27th. So hang tight. Big things are coming. Hope you enjoyed this video. In the meantime, drink some hot chocolate. Have a fantastic day. I love you all. And we'll see you all later.
Life cycle interrupted.